Do you know how many fighters aged 40 years old and above have gone on to make any real substantial run at a title or even win a title? 2. And you know what weight classes they're at? This is at heavyweight and at light heavyweight. That's the story that we're unraveling here today, because Jared Cannonier, the killer gorilla, he says third time's the charm. I'm 40 years old, level 40, but we're ready to make a title run. And in the middleweight division, it hasn't happened historically, but again, that's what we're gonna break down. Massive fight against Gregory Rodrigues, and breaking it down with me, as always, the Santa Fe bomber, the New Mexico native. AJ, the stats don't lie. History repeats itself, but there's always an opportunity for the new endeavors, the new champions, and the new people who defy what the odds previously were. My question to you, my friend, to open up. The killer gorilla, brother. 40 years old, level 40, can you get it done?
They say it can't happen until somebody goes in and proves it, and that's what Cannonier has right in front of him. History can be made, brother. I'm not saying it can't happen. Middleweight's a rough division to get it done, though.
So that's what I was going to say, man. I mean, Randy Kattar, the great Randy Kattar, he did it at heavyweight and at light heavyweight. We know not that long ago, Glover Teixeira, 42 years old, but he did it at light heavyweight, right? And there is that stat, and forgive me because I don't have it on hand, but there is that stat that I believe it's middleweight and below. If you're fighting age 30, like 3 or 35 and above, the record on those guys in championship bouts it's pretty tremendously poor. So hopefully we see something fun this weekend, but it's lining up to be a chalky card. Before we get to that though, AJ, let's do a little bit of recap, man. UFC 312. This was a good one. This was a really good one for the Bloody Water podcast, man. So first off, consensus picks 3-0, baby. Let's go. Dricus Du Plessis, Taliesin Teixeira, and Jake Matthews. We did have one draw, so 3-0-1, I guess. Jimmy the Brute Crute versus Rodolfo Bellato. That was a draw, man. But solid on the consensus picks. We love it there, man. Remind me, what was the theme that you gave for the consensus picks? Was it chalk last week too?
Chalk, yes, sir.
Yeah, and it hit, except for one, AJ. And I gotta say, I gotta give you a little bit of the rub, man. You fell for the hype, brother, the narrative, man. Everybody over here talking about, oh, Weili, she's the GOAT. Y'all should have known and all that. Nobody was saying that last week. I can attest to that because I was looking everywhere and I was like, wow, everyone thinks Weili's really about to get dogged. But veteranship, you gotta love it. What'd you think of that fight?
Hey, man, Weili pulled it out, right? I was a little excited, right? Because for my pick going forward for Suarez, right? First round, she gets a takedown. She's able to keep it down for a while. I'm like, all right, this is going to get to working. And then Weili hits the switch, and you just see the snowball effect keep going. And Weili did champ shit and just kept it pushing, man. Congrats to her, because it looked flawless besides that first couple minutes of that first round.
Bro, I was watching with the homies, and I was like, yo, if Suarez gets the takedown early, it's a wrap. And I was like, oh, we good. She gets the takedown. I was like, I spoke too soon. It's over. But then again, that medal of Weili, she showed it, man. Dominated the fight for her. Du Plessis dominated against Strickland. So let's give you a recap of the week, because that's what you guys care about. I got the lucky streak undefeated, 4-0-1, because we have that draw right there. But perfect week. AJ, you're just right behind. You took right there with the Suarez. You're still leading us, 14-5-1, 73%. You gotta love it. You gotta keep it around there too. And I'm playing catch up, 12-7-1 on the year, 63%. AJ, I'm gonna start with some good news. Props, right? You hit, my man. Smart play. Minus 175 distance. Du Plessis and Strickland to go the distance, and you hit on that one. It was chalky, but if you bet a sizable wager, you came up. I gotta eat crow. Cody Steele in the distance. Folks, I'm telling you, this dude's jiu-jitsu is sick. Wrestling, a little bit to be desired. I did not expect a swing and bang boxing brawl against Rongju. If that's what the fight that I saw that I knew was going to happen, that bet would have never taken place. So that's an L for me. 1-3, AJ, for us both, 25%. We need to right the wrongs. How do we get back on the winning track? You know we got something for him this week, but talk to him. How do we get back on the winning track?
Ooh, Derick, I mean, the props have started off a little rough right here, but how we get back on the winning track is going with what we were doing in the past, folks. If you've been tailing us for a while, you can see we're hitting props more often than not. We're letting you down this year so far, but it's just the start of the year, so pay attention because these ones are about to start hitting.
There we go. All right, folks, and then really quickly, a couple key takeaways, and then we'll jump into the UFC Vegas 102 card. 8 of the 12 fights on UFC 312 ended in decisions. That's including the majority draw that we had, Crute versus Bellato. 10 of the 12 fights hit the over on their rounds predictions. 83% of those fights hits the over. Obviously, makes sense because of the decision plays. But with that being said, man, we have to look at these trends, and then we can kind of apply it to the next week. But every fight card is different. And with that being said, we're talking about UFC Vegas 102. The middleweight division, high stakes. Brother, Consensus picks. AJ, we got a lot of them, man. This is another kind of a chalky card, as I just mentioned. So I'm going to rattle them off. You give us the theme. Gregory Rodrigues, Yusuf Zalal comeback story, Edmund Shahbazyan, Rodolfo Vieira, and then Jose Delgado, newcomer in the UFC right there. What is the word for the consensus picks?
The word for the consensus picks, Derick, is polish. Polish, all of them are right there. And man, this is going to be an easy one. Another chalk week if we can get it done.
If everything goes accordingly, man. But we do have one contrarian pick right here. And folks, we couldn't do the layup and just go full on same pick. So the closest fight out of all of these fights here is going to be, and this is odds perspective right here, it's going to be Ismail Bonfim and Nazim Sadykhov. So AJ, you rocking with the Bonfim, bro. I'm taking the other side with Sadykhov, the nice southpaw, coming off that I think submission victory. If not, no, it was that draw against Slavaclaus. But with that matchup right there, we're gonna break all of that down and more. But AJ, prop locks, talk to him. What do you got? I'm
going Ismail Bonfim by decision right here. Bonfim is more technical and a well-rounded fighter. Sadykhov, still very, very skilled. We'll break it down later, but I think Bonfim out-techniques him 10 out of 10 times. Plus 135 comeback if he wins by decision. Makes all the sense right here.
Now, I take offense to that. No, I'm just joking. I think he's right, actually, folks. Realistically, I do think Bonfim is the more technical fighter pretty much everywhere that the fight goes, but I think it's 9 out of 10 times. And I think 1 out of 10 times is happening this week. UFC Vegas 102, baby. We're taking the live dog underdog play. All right, folks, that is your bet sheet. We're breaking down the rest and more here in just one moment. And if you have not done so yet, take the moment to subscribe, hit the notification icon if you want the best plays prior to the fights. It does you no good to get these plays after the fight already took place or after the line that we discovered for you was already gone. So get in, get some money, and let's make it happen.
Here's to another main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
The Killer Gorilla Jared Cannonier versus Gregory Rodrigues, the RoboCop, man. This is an interesting matchup because, again, Cannonier, a lot of experience, a lot of 5-round experience. Rodrigues, not so much, but there's one major difference between the two. Cannonier can start off hot. He can counter strike. He's got good takedown defense. Where I kind of worry in this matchup is when the fight extends, normally you would say, oh yeah, that's Cannonier. But we just haven't been seeing that lately. He's kind of been, crumble is not the correct term to use, but wilting a little bit as the fight goes on when there's a lot of athleticism at hand. We've said for years, Gregory Rodrigues needs to grapple. He needs to mix things up because he'll win, and he's starting to do it. What do you think about that play for Cannonier if this goes long? Does this actually lead into Rodrigues' favor, even though he's not proven long distance?
I do, Derick, especially if we've seen Rodrigues fight the way he has been as of late, right? Like you said, he's more willing to start the grappling, to engage in the grappling. And if he's able to do that, the longer he's able to drain the gas tank of Cannonier. We said it before, man, 40 years old, Father Time is undefeated in this game, and that's what's going on right here, man. If Rodrigues can push the pace, I think he can control this fight and get a dub.
Now, for the counter-striking, though, we have to bring this up. This is super important right here, bro. Because for the counter-striking perspective, that's where Rodrigues can get caught. Notably, Jordan Williams and Bruno Ferreira, two dudes who, if you look back revisionist history, like this dude should have steamrolled him, right? But you get caught and you get knocked out. That's a real viable path to victory right there. And AJ, when we're looking at a TKO prop for Jared Cannonier, plus 325, it's kind of juicy if that's like a likely path to victory. What do you make of it?
Ooh, Derick, I like it, man. Especially if you're looking for a Cannonier bet right here. His most likely outcome is finding those moments whenever Gregory Rodrigues opens up, able to land a KO. I mean, and if Rodrigues goes back to the same kind of style he has, he's pressured, right? He's looking to push the pace all day. He wants to be the bully in there, and Cannonier has the power and the hand speed to be able to put him away.
2.5 rounds, brother. Over or under on this one? What do you expect?
I'm expecting the over. I like the over on this. 125 minus 125 for the over. It makes all the sense in the world, especially with the style of both these fighters and how experienced they are. I'm expecting a little bit, not necessarily slower of a start, but a more calculated kind of reading each other fight, get it past that 2.5 round mark.
Flip that one, though, man. It's minus 105 for the over, minus 125 for the under right there, which makes it really interesting because on another hand, it almost is kind of alluding to the same way that Cannonier, who was it against? Was it Kai? No, it was, Imavov. That went 4 rounds, though, right? Like, as it goes on, you put the pressure on, you start applying it, and he can wilt. But 2.5. Let's talk about the money right here, brother, because this is what I'm interested in right here. What is the real play? You're saying you just said you like the Over? Sorry?
The over. Yep.
Okay. So if we like the over right here, then Gregory Rodrigues is probably going to take a path to grapple a little bit to maybe extend this fight. Can you see what happens though? They just walk forward, both of them ready, swinging, banging. Early on when they're both fresh, who do you like better, Cannonier or Rodrigues? Because this is the rare time where they're kind of on equal footing, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I like Cannonier, especially if we're engaging in a dogfight right off the jump. I think the hand speed and the power and really just how Cannonier likes to fight, because he's patient in there, but he's able to go to work when he needs to and when he finds those holes. I like him early in that fight, but I do think it goes a little longer.
All right, so we didn't mention it, folks. Apologies, but the opening odd on this fight was what? Plus 170 for Cannonier, minus 205 for Rodrigues. Currently, minus 235 for Rodrigues, plus 190 for Cannonier. So the money is on the Rodrigues side. Interesting stat to take into consideration, though. Cannonier's 4-1 in 5-round fights. Gregory Rodrigues is 2-1 in fights that go the distance because he's been finishing a ton of these fights. So realistically, the exploitations here, cardio on the Cannonier side. For Rodrigues, it's the hitability where I think that Cannonier could really take advantage, but the confidence is totally in Rodrigues here, especially if he grapples. Now, just give me one caveat before we wrap this one up, AJ. What happens, the dreaded fact, if Rodrigues is like, I'm not grappling, dude. We're swinging. We're just trading here. Not just early, but for the fight, because that's the hard part to read on him. Sometimes he applies the game plan, and sometimes he doesn't. And if he can't get the takedown because he only has a 41% takedown accuracy when he actually does attempt to grapple, if he can't take down Cannonier and they're just pretty much kickboxing, right? What does that fight look like?
Ooh, I'm throwing the remote through the TV, Derick, especially, man, because it would be the craziest thing to see Gregory Rodrigues have his last couple of fights where he's looking good, he's looking well-rounded, and then he just abandons it all once the spotlight hits, and he's looking to trade and entertain, which I'm all here for. It'd be an entertaining fight, but I do think that that's his worst way to try and get a win right here. Cannonier is very, very dangerous.
Yeah, 100%. So this is going to be an interesting fight right here, but I think the smart play is going to be Gregory Rodrigues. For the final play on it, though, are you taking Rodrigues at minus 235, which seems not steep? It's a fair price, but, like, it's not a deal, right? So what are you taking here? How are you making money on this one?
I think I'm making money on this one, Derick, by taking that decision. I was thinking about the over, right? The over minus 105. It makes sense right there. It's still a deal. You're still making cash. The plus 400 decision, I don't see him. I do see him actually being able to finish this fight, especially on the ground and later rounds. I take that back, Derick. I'm making money on the over 2.5 at minus 105.
Yeah. I think that's a little bit more of a fair play. If you're betting on Rodrigues specifically, though, it might be fair just to take that money line right here. The unpredictability of the age of Cannonier and just kind of how he will end up the fight. If you look at that fight against Caio Bahaio, not as dangerous of a fight. Decision. Got knocked out by Imavov. That seems kind of normal at this point. One Vettori, decision. Strickland, decision. Adesanya, decision. Hard guy to put away, but it is possible, especially with the power of the RoboCop. That's your main event right there, folks. Middleweight division. Will the 40-year-old make it happen? The third time the charm? We don't think so. Consensus pick. Gregory Rodrigues. All right, man. Open it up with the co-main event right here. And this is probably the biggest story of the card. Calvin Kattar, right? The Boston strong Calvin Kattar. He fights the Moroccan devil, Youssef Zalal. And again, you could write a story on this man, or write a movie on this man's story right here. Bro, cut in 2022. Since then, 6 straight finishes, 4 submissions, 2 knockouts. And because a lot of people only watch the UFC, they look at him and they say, oh, Zalal is a submission specialist now, right? The dude's always been well-rounded. He just had a lot of decisions early on in the career in the UFC, lots of decisions, and that's where things get interesting, man. Calvin Kattar is not a stepping stone, and we've seen the UFC try to throw people at him so they can make a name off of him. This is the opportunity where he either cracks it big, you're in the rankings, championship run, without a doubt. Or this is Calvin Kattar saying, sorry, brother, I am the ultimate gatekeeper at 145 pounds. Maybe aside from Holloway, I am the ultimate gatekeeper right there. So, question for you right here, my friend. Youssef Zalal, hype? Or is this a real competitive matchup?
No, this is a real competitive matchup, Derick. We've seen an evolution of Zalal as he's came into these last couple of fights. I mean, he's even talked about it. He's like, this is what stories were made out of. You get cut, you think you're bad, you think you have nothing going for you, you try your hardest, you never quit. He's back in the octagon, and out of 3 fights, he's finished all 3 of them in the UFC. Absolutely not hype, man. This is the real deal fight right here.
And I believe so too, man. I think that he is the full package of being able to do everything. But then you got guys who are really, really good at one thing, like Calvin Kattar and his boxing and his jab in particular, right? Look at that last fight that he had against Aljamain Sterling. You had a dude who had to grapple him up in order to get the win. 8 takedowns, I believe, in that fight. Like, yeah, impressive performance. Not good for Kattar. The fight before that was it was the blown out knee against Arnold Allen, right? I mean, come on. People looking at him saying, oh, you're on a 3-fight losing skid. Come on, it doesn't really count, right? The one before that, split decision, Josh Emmett. You tell me, AJ, if you haven't watched the film on it, no worries. But did he win the fight? It was a close one, right?
It was a close one. I would have given it to him, but very, very close. I can see how Josh Emmett thinks he won that fight, but even Calvin Kattar still saying that he won this one all day long.
The point is, man, when this dude loses, Calvin Kattar is against the top guys in the division, the top ranked guys in the division. So that's where I look at Yusuf Zalal, and I'm like, even though the track record has been awesome, man, who'd you beat? Jack Shore, Jarno Aarons, Billy Quarantillo. But, brother, that's not Aljamain Sterling. That's not Arnold Allen, Josh Emmett, Giga Chikadze. That's none of these guys, right? So that's just really going to be the test. Is he really about it? We're going to find out. And I think that what it comes down to here, man, is Yusuf Zalal is 3-3 in fights that go to decision. If he can't put away Calvin Kattar, I mean, we might be entering some weird territory because Calvin Kattar is 3-5 in the UFC for fights that go to the decision. So for a decision fight right here, man, given their styles, you'd imagine Zalal has to make this a grappling fest, right? There's no other choice. You have to grapple with Calvin Kattar, or his specialty of his striking might be able to take over the fight.
Yeah, no, you have to do what Aljamain Sterling did and just put the backpack on Calvin Kattar, right? Yeah. Shoot as many takedowns as you can or as you need to actually secure this one going forward, and look for that submission, man. We've seen him do it in the last 3. The question is, can he do it against top-tier competition that is Calvin Kattar?
Yeah, I'm worried about the mental a little bit. This is the biggest name that he's had aside from Ilia Topuria, right? But Ilia Topuria's name wasn't even what it is when he fought him. So this is literally the biggest fight of your life right here. Good news, Calvin Kattar's 36 years old, AJ. We just had a whole discussion about this, man. But 145 pounds, you're over the 35-year-old mark. This might be the time for Zalal to shine. So if he gets it done, there is one path to victory right here that I don't know if it's the path because Calvin Kattar's never been submitted. But if you look at Yusuf Zalal and you look at the submission prop right here, what we had at open when I took down the initial odd, plus 300, currently plus 250. They're liking the sub more and more. Do you like the sub, AJ?
I do like the sub, Derick. I like it a lot, especially a lot better than that minus 150 open for decision for Zalal. I think the submission's definitely at play here, especially if the old school style, and I don't mean like old school as in boxing is outdated, but the one-dimensional style that has seemed to kind of get out of what MMA is nowadays. If Zalal is able to put just a well-rounded approach and keep Calvin Kattar guessing, then get him to the ground, I like the submission right here.
It's a good point, man. And it's weird because we're in a weird evolution right now where some people are arguing. You get deep into the lore of MMA and they start arguing that some of the OGs, the Randy Couture's, the Dan Hendersons, Matt Hughes, they're like, those guys could be champions in today because everybody is a jack of all trades and nobody is a master of one anymore, right? So it does make you wonder. Do the specialists have, I'm open forum right here. Do the specialists have a place in today's MMA, or do you feel like that has transitioned and we're all about hybrid style?
I think we're all about hybrid style right now, Derick. People have been fighting and training since they were kids now. This is no longer like, oh, hey, I can join the UFC because I just knocked some dude out in a brawl. Or like, I go into the gym and people are like, man, you should be fighting. Like that those days are gone now, right? Yeah. People have been training since day one. They've been growing up to do this. And yeah, they might be more well-rounded, but they're usually a specialist in one specific field, while all the other fields are just equally right there. Whereas on the other side, it's one specialist and they have basically nothing else going for them. The competition level has risen a bunch. I think we're in the universe of hybrids right now.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. There's a couple people at my gym, a couple of the kids, man, young, 20, 21-year-old black belts, right? They were green belts at 14, 15 years old. And, you start training MMA and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I'm 25, but I've been training for half of my life. And it's like, oh, shit, you know what I mean? But that's not the point here. The point is, yeah, this is going to be an interesting matchup. I'm curious to know because if I look at the takedown defense of Calvin Kattar, 61%, man, the dude has good takedown defense. It's not like he can't sprawl. He can't, defend a takedown. But I think Zalal isn't the guy who's, I'm going to blast double you, take you down. I think he's going to mix it up with the hands, create a trip, jump on your back, do something like that. Just tell me, what does the fight look like if Calvin Kattar wins this? Like, what does it look like?
Ooh, Derick, it's a lot of jabs, a lot of counters, and just cut in circles, right? And it's having Zalal think he can get close to you, think he can clinch you up because he's dangerous in the clinch, dangerous with the knees. But it's Calvin Kattar cutting angles, circling around, and just keeping this one a very technical boxing match.
What's a better bet right here? Over 2.5 rounds at minus 250, or fight to go the distance at minus 210?
Over 2.5 at minus 250. I like that one a little better.
So you think that a finish could come late here?
I do think, yes. I do think a finish could come later. And it's not only just as Zalal said that can do it. If Calvin Kattar is able to keep Yusuf Zalal guessing the entire time, worried about the power, worried about the combos that are coming his way, and he can get a knockout, man, we can see Calvin Kattar win this fight.
Yeah, totally. I'm not buying Yusuf Zalal at minus 550 against Kattar. I won't do it. That price is way too high for what we've seen from him. He's surging, don't get me wrong. I also don't think Calvin Kattar is a live dog at plus 375. Like, that's not a ticket price that I would pay for. So I do think that the fair play would be over 2.5, minus 250 right there if you're going to bet on anything, because the likelihood of that outcome right here, especially given the talent, not the talent discrepancy, but the experience discrepancy right here, I actually think that's a really favorable bet. So I'm rocking with that all day long. I'm down. Is that consensus? We rocking with it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right, folks. Yusuf Zalal, we're rocking with the Moroccan Devil. We're saying momentum will take him, but not sure if we're going to see a finish in this one. If it does, it will come late, and that is your co-main event. AJ, moving on to the next one. Can I tell you for a moment, man, I was very surprised when I saw this matchup. The Golden Boy, Edmen Shahbazyan, the man once under the tutelage of Ronda Rousey, the man the UFC was trying to push and say, hey, man, this guy's going to be the next big thing in the light heavyweight division, because I know he's in middleweight now. He's fighting, Dylan Budka. AJ, Dylan Budka, we got to give some impressions right here. His nickname is the Mindless Hulk. He hasn't had success in the UFC thus far, but the man, if anything, is a grinder who happened to miss weight in his last fight. Interesting to see if he could hit it on the scales this go. But what do you make of it, man? I thought that this has to be a Edmen will give you something so you could stick around type matchup. That's, and no disrespect intended whatsoever, but I was like, Shahbazyan has really fallen from grace a little bit with this matchup. This is a keep your job matchup. What do you think?
Absolutely a keep your job matchup, Derick. I was thinking this is a put up or hang 'em up kind of fight right here for Shahbazyan, because if he's not able to, I mean, just a couple years ago, we were talking Shahbazyan's looking for a championship run, and now he's lower on the card, fighting talent that not necessarily is well known. Don't get me wrong, Budka's dangerous, but Shahbazyan should be able to win this fight handedly, right? He has the skills to get it down. He's very, very technical all around, good boxing, has good power, and he's fighting an opponent who loads up a little too much and can get caught. And that's what I see Shahbazyan doing right here, is looking for those counters and picking his point and making it a statement now that he is the guy that needs to get past.
Opened at minus 350 for Shahbazyan, currently trending at minus 390 right now, plus 290 comeback for Budka. And this is the reality, man. You lose your last fight to GM3, to Gerald Mears chart, you get submitted, and you open up as a minus 350 favorite against another grappler. That's the type of matchup that we're talking about. So I think the reality is for Budka, it's very simple, man. You have to close the distance. You have to make this a scrap, right? And you have to get Shahbazyan tired, because to me, what the fight that I see in this matchup is Edmen Shahbazyan versus his gas tank. Like, that's the fight, right? If you come in reckless, you're getting knocked out, in my opinion, against Shahbazyan. You make him work, you clinch him up, you don't give him space to fight you that way, right? You make it a dirty boxing type of fight, a lot of trips and drops and all that. I think Budka can grind this one out and he could win this fight, but he has to get past the first round unscathed. He has to get around really like the first round and a half to get unscathed, but I don't think it's going to happen, AJ. So let's talk about it, brother. I think Edmen Shahbazyan and that under 2.5 rounds at minus 135 would be a very, very solid play right here. But I got a prop. Actually, I don't even think I mentioned my prop in the prop lock. AJ, KO, Edmen Shahbazyan. Sorry, folks, plus 135. Hell yeah. What are we talking?
Yeah, Derick, I like it, man. Plus 135 for the knockout. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world, especially if Dylan Budka does come in there and wants to throw that reckless abandonment style he has. Like I said, man, he loads up on a lot of his punches, and if I'm noticing it as an amateur, we know Shahbazyan and his team is noticing it, seeing those things happen, and they're able to pick spots. Shahbazyan is very, very dangerous. I like that. I mean, it's his best odd, clearly, against on all the across the board. I don't see this fight going decision, so if you're not looking for an actual finish play right here, yeah, the over makes sense, but that plus 125 is juicy.
Dog, this is the way that I'm viewing it. Because I look at it from the fight, but I'm looking at the bigger picture right here. You're Dylan Budka, 0-2 in the UFC. Most contracts, you get 3 fights on your contract. You have to win. AJ, if you wrestle Edmund Shahbazyan and do not get a finish and make it a boring fight on the main card, that's a great way to get a win and another great way to not get re-signed. So you have to make it exciting. And if you have pressure on you to make the fight exciting against Edmund Shahbazyan, most exciting fights against that man end up in a knockout. So that's why that's the easy play right here. I don't really have much else to say on there other than 65% takedown defense for Shahbazyan. You got to make it hold up. That's it. You got anything else on this one?
Ooh, I mean, Dylan Budka does have some good takedowns, and he is willing to push the pace. I mean, averaging 2 for 15 minutes. It doesn't sound the best, but he is able to get the takedowns and hold him down. I don't see it happening like that. I like Shahbazyan by KO.
All right, that's the play. Consensus plus 135, and that is my prop lock this week. So we're getting back on a winning track. All right, AJ, to the most, in my opinion, the hardest to read fight of the main card, Ismail Bonfim versus Nazim Sadykhov right here, man. Really, really, really interesting fight right here, but I'm going to go back to your original point where if you talk about a dude who has a really high striking output, really good striking defense, and really has only lost due to like mental lapses, like little just kind of errors here and there, that's Bonfim, man. This dude is really, really good at 155 pounds. Sadykhov is too, though, man. I think that he doesn't get the respect that he deserves, but I also saw against Slavaclaus, your hands are right, man. You can box this dude up. You just got to overwhelm him, target the legs with the calf kicks, throw with the 1-2s, mix up a little lateral movement, and it could be a little hard to read because he's more of a stationary opponent. But Sadykhov has the advantage of being a southpaw right here, which makes this a really fun matchup. Orthodox southpaw. Have that rear leg body kick open all day. We're going to see if the grappling negates each other. I mean, aside from being on Bonfim, which we know that you are and that I'm on Sadykhov, like, what makes Bonfim so attractive to be a minus 220 favorite currently right now when Sadykhov, man, hasn't lost in I don't know how long, and 8 of his 9 wins are via finish?
Yeah, Derick. I mean, if you look on paper, I can see what you're talking about, right? But if I'm taking the style of how Bonfim fights, he's all over the place and in a good way, right? Very well rounded. He's able to mix things up, and when you're able to confuse your opponent, when you have him keep on guessing, like, is he going to kick me? Is he going to strike? Like, what's going on right here? And especially with a more solid style of fighter that Sadykhov is, right? He's planted. He's looking to hit you. He's looking to find ways to be able to get the fight down or get the fight going. I think Bonfim is able to just have that where he's giving you paralysis by analysis. Who knows what's going on? And then he's able to piece you up, right? Keep you at range or even box you up in the middle. He's down to trade. Both of these fighters are very, very dangerous, but I think Bonfim is able to find the positions where he's most dangerous more often.
So you think that from a technical perspective, right? Because both of these dudes are finishers, right? Like Bonfim, 13 of 20 wins by finish. Like I said, 8 and 9 for Sadykhov. But if this is just two finishers who are going to respect each other, play the technical matchup, if Bonfim wins from just a technical perspective, then really what we should be aiming for is the over 2.5 minus 170 or a pure points on Bonfim, which you already mentioned, or kind of already mentioned, but plus 125 points right there. Was that the deduction that you had when you were looking at this?
It was, Derick. I see this fight not necessarily being the most technical one we've seen. I do think they're going to get after it. I do think there are dogs in there, especially when they get inside the pocket and they're willing to trade. I just don't see a world where it's just a one style or one-sided just absolutely crushing each other, right? Like, I do think both fighters are very, very talented. Sadykhov's going to get a lot of respect from this fight. I just think points by Bonfim makes the most sense to me if he's winning this fight.
Yeah, the only reason that I can say, like, yeah, even though I'm rocking with Sadykhov here, is because he's a very hittable fighter, man. Like, you see it. If you overwhelm him and you push him back, he kind of accepts going back. But the problem is, like you saw with Slavaclaus, that was a draw, right? That could have been a knockout win, man. He had Slava on skates, bro, and all it took was one counter and a follow-up head kick. That's all that it took. So I think that both of these dudes have a finish on the table realistically. So I do want to at least entertain. What do you think is more enticing? Even if you're not taking a side, if you're just taking a pure totals type situation, under 2.5 at plus 130, or fight to not go the distance at plus 110? Which is are more enticing of those two?
I think fight to not go the distance at plus 210.
Plus 110.
Or 110? Yeah. 110. Either way, I mean, if no matter how you want this fight to finish, or no matter how you want whoever to win, if this fight just gets finished, right? It makes most sense because 2.5 rounds, you start playing the clock game, you're starting to see how things get going, and we saw it even last week. What was it? Only 2 fights didn't make it to the over. So the theme right there, or at least the data trends have been pushing towards the over, but we can still finish a fight between those 3 rounds, and I think that's most likely to happen.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So this is a contentious pick right here. I think Sadykhov and Bonfim are very well matched, but I think the key for Sadykhov is you have to find the finish. You have to find the hole, and you have to got to get him out of there. I think if it goes to a decision, Bonfim is a very clear play. So that's the contrarian pick right there. Anything else on this one?
Nah, brother. Bonfim by points. Let's go.
All right, we'll see. Well, you're talking about a finish. That lined us up perfectly for the next fight, man. Rodolfo Vieira versus Andre Petroski. Interesting matchup. I was like, man, why would you put these 2 dudes together? Because they're twins in not the way that I think you're expecting me to tee this up here, AJ. The first thing that I thought about when I saw this matchup was you put the 2 guys with like the worst gas tanks in the division together, and somebody is going to have a worse gas tank than the other, right? Like, you respect it, but we know Vieira, even though he's been able to push through, you get him tired, all that grappling goes out the window. We saw it with Chris Curtis. That was like the best example. If he can't get the takedown, he'll keep shooting, but at the end of the day, we only got so much cardio. Petroski, I can't trust the gas tank past like a round and like a quarter, AJ. No disrespect, because the man is active and he's winning. But I just see he gets so tired. So in a war of attrition between these two, what goes out the window first, man? Like, who's at an advantage if this goes to war of attrition?
I think I have to go with Vieira on that one, Derick. At least as of late, we've seen him be able to control his gas tank a little bit better than we've seen Petroski. Because I'm with you. And with the style that Petroski has, he's aggression and he's pressure all day long, and that just drains his gas tank consistently. The only benefit he has going for them is Vieira is able to, when he has pressure against him, he gets overwhelmed, right? He does not handle pressure well. And then that's when he starts draining his own gas tank. So, yeah, I mean, the gas tank issue right here, I mean, I have it for both of them. They need to be very worried about it. But if Vieira is able to not be put on the back foot, not worry about the pressure, just actually get a takedown, control it from there, I think he has the better outcome going for this one.
I think so too, but I mean, I don't know, man. When this fight opened, minus 210 for Vieira, plus 175 comeback for Petroski, he's ballooned up, minus 280, plus 230 for Petroski. Is Vieira, given what we just talked about with the gas tanks, in what world do they say minus 280? Yeah, line it up. That's a fair price. Is this fair to you?
No, not at all, man. Somebody did, or Petroski did somebody dirty over in the odds makers, because I don't understand why it's that way. I think this fight is a lot closer. Should be like a minus 150-ish type area right here, plus 120 comeback, whatever the other odd would be. It's interesting to see. I mean, Vieira is, I guess, more of a well-tested name. We've seen him fight higher-level opponents, so that maybe that's where it's coming from. But I think this fight should be a lot closer.
Another interesting note that you want to take into consideration is that Vieira, all 5 victories in the UFC by submission. If you're looking on the other hand for Petroski, man, 4-0 in decisions in the UFC. So it's like, man, like Vieira, you got to get him out of there, bro. You know what I mean? Because who knows what happens if it goes to a decision. Clearly, they're on the side of Petroski right there. But that's the other thing, too, man. 2 losses from Petroski, both KO. I mean, one doesn't really count. That Jacob Malkoun KO'd himself, knocked himself out on his hip. But the Michel Paeta one, I mean, he did get him out of there for that one. So this is just the one other piece that I wanted to take into consideration. You have a wrestler in Petroski, a submission grappler, too. Don't get me wrong. You're not just a wrestler. Vieira, black belt hunter, bro. 8-time jiu-jitsu world champion. What else do we have to say? We know this dude is phenomenal. Probably more than 8 times, actually. But the point that I have is this. Grappling negated. I actually think, and we've seen it, I think Vieira is going to do better on the feet, man. I think he has a better jab, crisper boxing. It's just a matter of, like I said, who gets tired first. Do you agree, or do you think Petroski has something for him on the feet?
No, I do. I agree with you, Derick. Vieira's grappling, as much as it is fundamental, he's become a lot more smooth with it, a lot less robotic going in there. He can have some 1s and 2s put together and look smooth, and then that's what leads to the takedown. I see that being his best option to win right here.
Yeah, and he's referring to the striking, not the grappling on that one. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that this is going to be an interesting matchup. I don't like that they're pitted against each other, but I do like to see that there's going to be a little bit of movement in this division right here. So the consensus play again, Rodolfo Vieira, the black belt hunter right here, and the final play on that one, because again, I do not like minus 280 for the price right here. What are we rocking with, man? You got 2 options here. We could rock with a totals, which over 2.5 is even, bet 100, win 100, under 2.5 at minus 130, and the odds makers like that under. So what do you like?
Ooh, at 2.5. I like the under, Derick. With gas tank issues right here. I know we were just saying too, right? The unders are not hitting. This might be the one on the card that does, especially because they both know their gas tanks struggle. They got to get the fight done. If Vieira can get a submission, I mean, we're looking at plus 150. So I do like that as well. But I like the under even more, just in case you're not willing to bet one or the other fighter.
Man, I want it so bad, but the matchup like this, something tells me that's when weirdness happens. Something about it makes me really like that plus 135. Fight goes the distance. Doesn't matter who wins, just a sloppy, nasty, no gas tank type of fight. It happens, like a heavyweight fight at middleweight, you know what I mean? But that's the play right there, folks. Rock with it, drop it in, and show us the bet sheets once you've done it. All right, man, last one, or I guess I should say the one to open us up. Some newcomers, man. Conor Matthews and Jose Delgado. For Matthews, not the greatest debut. You lost on the Contender Series, came back, won a fight, then won on the Contender Series in a decision, got a UFC shot, and it just hasn't panned out the way that ideally they want him to. He is a New England cartel fighter, but he's fighting a dude with some real pop on his shot that is riding, a 5-fight finish streak, 3 knockouts, 2 subs. Delgado's mean. He fights mean, too. Some people would say he has a little bit of a Mike Tyson-esque style with the walk you down and the upper body movement type, you know? I want to know what you think about Jose Delgado in this fight against Conor Matthews. Does he hold the minus 450 betting edge that the odds makers are giving him? Or do you think Matthews has something for him, something in surprise for him?
No, I think Matthews has something in surprise for him. When I saw that opening odd, Derick, I was a little taken back. I mean, yeah, Delgado was dangerous. He has more of the X factors going into this one, right? Like he's taller. He's arguably a better striker. That one's hard to say. Good takedowns. I mean, homeboy is well-rounded, but I like him most because he has good movement, good head movement as well, and knows how to work those angles. Matthews, though, man, good kicks at range. Like this guy utilizes what I call like smart pressure, right? He uses his pressure instead of just to maul you and walk you down and hope something lands. He uses the pressure, takes a step back, finds a counter, and then puts it to you. This dude has amazing combos in the pocket as well. Matthews is a good fighter. He just needs to be able to find those moments where he can actually make the fight go his way now.
Yeah, dude's got a lot of early submission wins too. He's kind of like a scrambling grappler right there, submission grappler. 1-1 in fights that go to decision. But AJ Delgado is 0-1 in fights that go to decision right here. So we could see a real finish right here. My only problem with Matthews is that it's not even a problem. It's just it's the curse of your own success. A lot of first round finishes, man. So as the fight extends, it's just going to be interesting to see who's going to be able to put up more volume for an extended point of time. But more important, man, he got hit a lot against that Dennis Bazookia fight, right? Like, he got hit kind of a lot, and you don't want to get hit against Delgado that amount because you're probably going to go to sleep. But if this fight turns into a submission grappling type fight, man, who do you give the edge? Do you give it to Matthews, or do you think Delgado got a submission edge too?
I think Delgado, Derick, I mean, he is a better striker, but Delgado has sneaky ways to being able to find himself in takedowns, catch your back, get things going. He is a little long, so sometimes that could be good or bad as far as leverage in the submissions. And Matthews, he's dangerous, but I think a lot of the times he's sitting down on his shots, leading him to be a little more stagnant, and then that's when he ends up on the bottom in that grappling matchup.
Yeah, man, there's still not a lot of lines out for this fight because this one kind of got put together quickly. But I will say I don't have much on this one. I don't like the price of minus 450 for a newcomer who doesn't have the experience. That's way too high of a line right there. But if there is a line that I do like based on just like the outcomes of these fighters, under 2.5, minus 130. What do you think?
Under 2.5, I like it, Derick. Almost the fight is literally 75% done, basically. I do think a finish can happen right here, Derick. I like it.
Yeah, I like it. The over is even money, so you could definitely take it. I mean, it's not a bad price to pay, even money. But I think if we're looking for some juice right here, even though it's minus 130, I think just looking off of the past history of these fighters, these guys are finishers. And finishers, what do? They finish for the most part. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. But that's your opener, man. Some UFC newcomers. Interesting one. We gave you the big plays. We gave you the big narratives and the big story of UFC Vegas 102, and we're not done yet, folks, because the next part that we got to get to is we need to talk about the bonus plays exclusive to the Bloody Water podcast here, this episode, meaning we don't put this on social media, not on Instagram or on Twitter or whatever the case may be. This is exclusively for you guys, for sticking around.
And now, the Bloody Water podcast presents your Fight Night bonus plays.
So AJ, there's 4 plays on dock, and we're going to go ahead and break them down one by one to announce the official bonus play for UFC Vegas 102. All right, first one, man. I have, oh man, Chaos Williams versus the other Bonfim brother, Gabriel Bonfim, inside the distance at -200, which almost makes too much sense, almost. So it's like a good chalky bonus play right here, but give us a little insight on that.
Very much a chalky bonus play, Derick, right here. I mean, when you're fighting against a style that Chaos Williams is, the final bell is hard to come by. It does happen, but it is a difficult road to be treaded, right? With the skill and pressure of both fighters, I see this one ending early. I like the inside the distance.
Yeah, man. And if I'm looking at a KO prop by both of these guys, which is kind of interesting, plus 550 KO prop for Bonfim, plus 275 for Williams. So they think if somebody holds the power, it's Williams, which is true. But I'm actually a little surprised that, they're not giving. They're giving Bonfim the submission edge right there. So I was gonna say, put some respect. You know what I mean? All right. Next up, man. Yusuf Zalal, submission play. We talked about it against Calvin Kattar. The man's never been submitted before, so the sub price is interesting, plus 255. AJ, let me get the updated line on that one and see where we're at. I know I mentioned it earlier. The submission prop on Zalal right now, yeah, plus 250 right there. So it has not crept much. It's pretty much a clean line. Give us some insight.
Pretty much a clean line, Derick. We were talking about it before. All three of his fights since coming back into the UFC, he's able to finish by submission, but he's going up against a dog who has never been submitted. So I think the price at plus 250 makes a lot of sense right here. It's interesting to see how it goes. If he can get this to the ground early, I mean, I like Zalal a lot.
It definitely could be an interesting play, a big play right there. Next up, the black belt hunter, Rodolfo Vieira, and Gregory Rodrigues. We're taking the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specialty right here, called it the BJJ parlay. Combine them together because they're both pretty chalky, but we get plus 106 on that parlay. And this is actually a very favorable parlay. Drop 50 bucks on here, you're going to make some cash. What do you make of it?
All day, Derick. Both fighters can utilize the grappling to null the effects of their opponents, and both make it hard not to engage in that style of fight that benefits them. I like this one, man. Like you said, BJJ parlay all day.
There we go. All right, and then we got one more. We just talked about this, man, and it is a real possibility. Jose Delgado, knockout, plus 175. Current line on it right now, because they're giving this man everything and more. They actually don't have it right now. Not on the big sites right now, because I say you got to put together. So find the lines where you can right here. But if you could find plus 175, AJ, do the people take it? Give us the insight.
Oh, all day, Derick. Long and lanky fighter who is skilled in striking, plus his opponent was KO'd in his last fight right here. I think Delgado's best path to option is by KO.
Yeah, best path to victory for sure right there. All right, man. So those are 4 plays. To recap them, Chaos Williams versus Gabriel Bonfim inside the distance, Yusuf Zalal by submission, Vieira and Gregory Rodrigues moneyline parlay, and Jose Delgado by KO. What is the official UFC Vegas 102 bonus play?
I've been battling a couple, Derick, because I think there's a lot of juice right here on all of these, but I think the most likely one to hit, the official UFC bonus play right here for the Bloody Water podcast, we're going with the BJJ parlay all day long. Vieira, Rodrigues, money line. Make sure you cash in on this chalk.
Cash it in. Go run to the sportsbook right now. Run on your app and type it in right now, because you know the closer that we get to Saturday, these lines are going to be shifting. But that is a solid bonus play. And with that being said, folks, we're now to the next section of the program. The unknowns of today, but the stars of tomorrow. We spent this whole entire time talking about the biggest and the baddest names on this card, but now we need to go to the underappreciated ones, the ones you're going to be hearing about in 6 months, in a year, and you're going to be like, where did that guy come from? Oh yeah, I remember I heard him on the Bloody Water podcast. You dig?
It's time for some fight night.
And if you ain't paying attention,
you're gonna sleep on me and I'm gonna wake you up.
AJ, you got a fun one at 135 pounds. Talk to him.
Yes, sir. We're rocking with Vince Morales versus Elijah Smith in the 135-pound division right here, folks. Morales, this is his second fight in the UFC, down to stand and trade, but still very technical, even when engaging in a dogfight, and that's what I'm expecting right here. Swift Smith, man, has that nickname for a reason, because homeboy is smooth, good striking at distance, pushes the pace. Expect the same well-rounded approach that he had now that he has his UFC debut, right? 17 finishes combined right here, folks, with 11 of them being knockouts. Fight will be fast-paced, exciting to watch, so make sure you're tuning in.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one right here. Just got put together as well. So, I mean, listen, this is an interesting card. folks, I got a fun one for you. We're going back down 125 pounds. Rafael Estevam versus Jesus Aguilar. And if you know anything about these dudes right here, these dudes are finishers. But what makes it interesting right here, combined finish rate. 15 combined stoppages and 23 wins, 7 for Estevam, 8 submissions for Aguilar. This is going to be fireworks all day long. But what's more important is you got the long, lanky Estevam, who is a pressure grappler, versus a guillotine expert in Aguilar. So you know, you come in shooting for a takedown, you better watch your neck, because Aguilar will definitely snatch it. So I think it's going to be a really fun matchup at 125 pounds. Aguilar is always a showstopper, but he's 5'4", small frame. A lot of punch in that small frame. 7-inch reach advantage for Estevam, and that really can make Aguilar definitely weaponize that guillotine more and more, man, because he knows anytime that this dude gets close, you got to grab a hold of him. So I'm expecting a finish. I'm expecting fireworks, and that is going to be your sleeper of the night. Bigger sleeper than AJ's sleeper, just because, come on, brother, it's always a competition, you know what I mean? But you win as long as you're watching the Bloody Water podcast, so you dig. All right, AJ, we've been cruising through this episode right here, but we have come to the long-awaited, the mailbag of UFC Vegas 102. Friendly reminder, folks, you want your questions featured on the program, shoot us a message, and you might just get it answered. We got a couple of them, not as many as the last couple of episodes. I got 4 good questions right here, and then, we're just going to break them down, and we're going to hop up out of here. So, first question, AJ, on our UFC Vegas 102 mailbag. James_Stepper91, I'm going to get your name right. AJ, Cannonier's 40 and on a 2-fight skid. If Rodrigues drags him into deep waters with his grappling, does Jared's power even matter, or is this a young lion eats the old moment? We talked about it a little bit earlier, but age definitely is a factor, especially when you're 40 years old fighting at 185 pounds. What do you make of it?
Yeah, age does matter, Derick. The part I'm focusing in on, right, does Jared's power even matter? He always has the option or the availability or the utilization of being able to get a knockout right here. RoboCop's hard to put away, though. There's a lot of fighters where I'd say going up against RoboCop, their power doesn't even matter if they're 30, 20. Doesn't Homeboy is dangerous and durable right there. But I do think Cannonier possesses that kind of snap where he is able to find the moments and find the timing, find the location where he's able to hurt you. And I do think that's where Cannonier can find some success right here. But in deep waters, age of 40, it's an uphill fight for sure.
Just remember, folks, power is the last thing that you lose. You might lose your speed, you might lose your agility, but there's a reason why you could be 45, 42 in the heavyweight division and still be a contender. You know what I mean? So as long as Jared is standing, he's in the fight. Now, if you put him on his back, does the power... No, not anymore. But, yeah, I think Cannonier will be in this fight every step of the way right here. So that's a good one. 811. Zalal's last 3 wins were submissions. Kattar's never been tapped. If Yusuf can't choke him, does he get boxed up by Kattar? Moroccan Devil might be on a title run right now. So this is, in essence, what we were talking about earlier right here, man. If he cannot get the takedown, if he can't work the submissions against Calvin Kattar, he's a specialist, and he can shine. There is a real opportunity right here. Doesn't get boxed up, AJ.
Ooh, I think he has the possibility, Derick. The thing is, people forget the Moroccan Devil is a dangerous striker as well. I believe he has the height advantage too. I got to check real quick, but I mean, if Yusuf Zalal is able to put together some 1s and 2s, have Calvin Kattar guessing, have him second guessing his own striking abilities, man, he can get some work done. 5'10", 5'11", I was wrong. Calvin Kattar's a taller fighter. But either way, Moroccan Devil is still very dangerous when he's striking. I just like him better in the grappling against Calvin Kattar.
Yeah, 1-inch height difference, same reach. I mean, basically a similar fighter right there. So that's fair play. 2 more questions. Wolf Rage _ Cavalcanti, Jacqueline Cavalcanti, folks, for those who are uninitiated right here. Let me see that. Yeah, first fight of the night. Jacqueline Cavalcanti's -440 against Julia Avila. The Raging Pandas ranked and gritty. Are the odds makers overreacting to one split decision, or is Cavalcanti really the next big thing at 135 pounds? And you know what, man? Avila had a baby and had a fight, and we know there's the curse. Like, that first fight back, it's always kind of a wash. But I was surprised, too, because I like Cavalcanti. She's a good striker, man. She's a good, well-rounded fighter. But Avila, if she gets the takedown, brother, she is gritty. She's the definition of grit. So I felt the same way. I feel like she's completely getting overlooked. Plus 500 dog. Cavalcanti is -850 live right now. So he thought this was crazy, or this person thought this was crazy. -850. You don't touch the line. Talk to us.
You don't touch the line at all, Derick. I don't get me wrong. I agree with you guys. Like, Cavalcanti is very, very dangerous. But Avila, like you said, Derick, she gets a takedown. She's able to go to work right here. This could be one of those where it's a what do you call it? A
live dog?
Proven wrong?
Oh,
not live
Y'all
dog.
must have
but,
forgot.
yeah, obviously
Y'all must
a
have
live
forgot.
dog. But yeah, this is one of those fights where the underdog can easily, and not easily, if she's able to get in her bag, she can pull out this win.
Now, don't get me wrong. Cavalcanti could have also, you know what I mean, put it on her, right? Avila, the way she lost her last fight, I was very disappointed by the outcome, but I understood, you know what I mean? I just don't think that this young in her career, Cavalcanti, can be this large of a favorite without putting on. This is a Wayne Kong type situation, right? Where it's like, you better smash, destroy. She better be out of there in one round, you know what I mean? If you cruise to a 3-round decision, like, that can't warrant that price tag, you know what I mean? So to answer your question, yeah, we think it's ridiculous, but is Cavalcanti really the next big thing at 135? What about that part?
Ooh, I'm not ready to say that yet, Derick. I mean, 135, it's an interesting division, right? Pretty light as far as how deep it is actually going. So I can see her having an easier path to make a name, but she needs to fight a little bit more well-known fighters. And don't get me wrong, Julia Avila, very, very dangerous, and at least to the degenerates well-known. But I think as far as star power, she needs to have a couple more names under her belt to actually be a title shot.
All right, 8-1. We'll see where we goes. We'll see how this comment ages. You know what I mean? All right, man. Last one, 2 inside ball. Shahbazyan, he fell off. Fighting Dylan Budka now. Dude is 0-2 in the big leagues and doesn't look like he belongs there. It's a little harsh. If he loses here, does Dana cut him, or is this just a layup to keep him around? So we're kind of on par with some of the questions that we were asking ourselves earlier here. Does Budka get cut if he loses? I mean, that makes sense, right? Just like 3 fights on a contract. You go 0-3, you're probably on the way out, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Derick. Absolutely. If Budka needs... At the very least, he needs to put on just a wild performance to make Dana go, well, he lost, but that fight was fun, so I'm down to book you again. Because if you don't, if you're just boring in there, like you're basically out the door before you even start. The question I have, Derick, if Shahbazyan loses this, do you think he's coming back? Like, do you think this is going to be an entrance? I'm sure he has more fights on his card, but do we see him on another, main event or a main card, at least in this case? I don't know. He's fallen off a little bit.
Well, I was going to point out, if he loses, he'll be 6-6 in the UFC. I do think that they would probably cut him, dude. Honestly, no. Like, if I'm looking at it, I'm like, all right, so if you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Last 7 fights, right? 3 losses in a row. Brunson, Hermanson, Imavov. You beat Dolce Lungi and Bula. I don't even know if he's in the UFC anymore. You lose to Fluffy Hernandez. Beat AJ Dobson. Lose to Gerald Mearstart. And don't forget, I remember you bet Dobson in that Shahbazyan fight. And Dobson was winning that fight until he got knocked out. So, like... I think they give him the boot, man. You know what I mean? I don't think, even if you have more fights on your contract, doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to fight those out. They could just say, we're just going to grant you a release from the contract just because we don't want you on here, you know what I mean? So, I mean, I don't know. It could be a PFL entrance after, but Shahbazyan, nut up or shut up on this one for sure. But we're rooting for you, big dog, you know what I mean? And Budka, this is bulletin board material for him, man. He's probably seeing this shit and be like, oh, I'm going to beat this dude's ass, Come on, what are you talking about? But folks, that is your mailbag for UFC Vegas 102. It's going to be some fun fights in store. And if you want the best, most up-to-date, the best thing in the world right here, come to the Bloody Water Podcast. I ain't got no fancy marketing materials for you. We do it the best. We're your favorite fighters' favorite fight show. And AJ, that's the program, yeah?
Yes, sir. Folks, make sure you get your bets in early because we're making some money this weekend. Let's go get it.